Decades after Earth was destroyed by human irrationality and nuclear wars, we see a river in the middle of a desert that still brings life, and in its center, a forest remains green. There, we meet Furiosa, a clever girl who is currently picking fruits for herself and her friend. The two are far from home when a group of men camps nearby. Furiosa decides to approach them and silently cuts the hose supplying fuel to their motorcycle engine. Suddenly, a masked man surprises her, but Furiosa shows why she has that name. She stabs the man in the leg and runs away, blowing hard on her whistle. Not far away, her mother Mary hears the sound and knows it is a call from her daughter. They live in a colony with other people, hidden from the rest of the world, and Mary and others go to rescue the girls. Back with Furiosa, she is cornered and knocked out. The group of kidnappers puts her on the bike and leaves the area before Mary arrives. However, Mary does not give up and continues to pursue the bikers on horseback. Her companion kills one of them with a rifle shot, and when another one takes off on the fallen bike, Mary catches up and kills him. Mary gets on the bike and does not allow her companion to follow. The woman says no one can discover the place where they live, so Mary quickly departs. Meanwhile, Furiosa regains consciousness, and another kidnapper is suddenly killed. The remaining men stop their motorcycles and return to retrieve the fuel can from the fallen bike. Seeing that they are busy, Furiosa starts biting the fuel hose. They soon continue their escape, and Furiosa manages to cut the hose. Mary, seeing the faster motorcycle left behind, quickly repairs it using improvised parts and continues pursuing her enemies. Later, at night, the bike on which Furiosa cut the hose stops working. The two men stop to fix it but hear the sound of another motorcycle approaching and are surprised. One of them asks Furiosa who is chasing them, but she says nothing. He confronts his partner, saying they need to take something to Lord Dementus and talk about the place they found to gain respect. While the other says he just wants to leave, Furiosa tries to cut her bonds and starts running. Unfortunately, one of the men on his bike captures her again not far away. At dawn, Mary continues to follow them closely, and when she rounds a dune to get a vantage point and shoot at the men, she discovers their village. However, she cannot shoot one of them because Furiosa is tied to his back. So she kills the one behind them and lets the other reach the village. The man is stopped by Ruthless, who takes Furiosa and asks where he found her. He says it was a bountiful place but will only reveal the location to his leader. As he leaves, happy to be recognized, Furiosa attaches one of the ropes to him and hooks it to a tire, causing him to fall. Ruthless then takes Furiosa to Dementus and claims he found her. Dementus approaches and asks where she came from, but realizing Ruthless doesn't know, orders the real finder to be brought in. The poor man is severely injured and cannot speak. When they turn him upside down to draw directions in the sand, Furiosa attacks him. Dementus intervenes and gently tries to build trust with the girl, saying he will take her home the next day. For now, he asks her to let his workers take care of her. Meanwhile, Mary has taken the clothes of a dead man in the desert to disguise herself as one of Dementus' men. A sandstorm approaches the village, and Furiosa is being tended to in one of the tents. When a guard goes to close part of the tent that opened, he is quickly killed. The other guard, admiring a fruit Furiosa brought, goes to show it to his companion outside but is surprised and killed by Mary. Furiosa approaches her mother, and the woman tending to her begs for mercy, which Mary grants. Unfortunately, after they leave, the woman alerts the others. One of them shoots at Mary, hitting the fuel can and setting her clothes on fire. After moving away a bit, Mary stops, removes the burning clothes, and continues her escape. Meanwhile, Dementus and his men track the two women. Knowing they will be found, Mary stops near some rocks, asks Furiosa to go ahead, and hands her a seed. The girl is sad to leave her mother there, but she obeys and rides off on the motorcycle. Mary stands with her rifle ready to shoot, and in the distance, Furiosa hears the gunshots and stops for a moment. Mary kills some of the men, and when she runs out of bullets, she tries to fight using the rifle as a club. Unfortunately, she is surrounded and overpowered by several men. Fearing the worst, the girl runs back, but after crossing the dune, she sees Dementus and his men with her mother. She quickly approaches Mary, who is tied to a wooden stake, but the leader grabs her and demands to know where she came from, promising to free her mother who is over a fire. She does not tell, making her mother proud, who is unfortunately left to die there. Months later, Dementus' group surrounds another small group of people who refuse to submit to him, and after overpowering them, Dementus captures their leader and chains him to 5 motorcycles. With them is Furiosa, inside a cage along with Dementus' wise master and historian. The mad leader Dementus tells the 20 people who did not accept him as their leader that now they must fight for 5 spots in his group. As soon as Dementus gives the order to start, the group begins to fight each other, not caring who will live, they just want their place. Dementus goes to Furiosa, who is watching the fight closely, and then offers her a teddy bear that used to belong to his children. After the fight ends, he orders the winners to start the motorcycles and accelerate, thus tearing their former leader into 5 parts. The next day, the wise master talks to little Furiosa, saying that he can teach her to read, but she refuses. However, he insists, saying that she should become valuable, and thus Dementus would not let her die. Days pass, and while everyone sleeps, Furiosa tattoos her arm with stellar navigation instructions. Dementus' large group continues their journey, and when they observe a red signal in the sky, they decide to follow it. There was a pale young man with a wound on his forehead. Dementus asks if he knows of a place with abundance, and the young man says that the citadel has what they seek. One of Dementus' men takes the young man's belongings, including a flare gun. When it is fired at the ground, it causes an explosion of red dust, making Dementus' beard turn red, but he approves of the change. He then, with his large group of bikers, heads to the great fortress of the citadel, a place with resources of potable water and a green area. It does not take long for them to be noticed by all the inhabitants of the place. However, Dementus grabs the loudspeaker to propose something, saying that he wants the leaders of the place to be able to kill them all and thus free the people from all cruelty and imprisonment. Furiosa looks up at the citadel and sees the leader Immortan Joe present himself, being booed by Dementus' men. Immortan Joe's spokesperson says that for negotiations to begin, the invader must choose a warboy to show the truth. One of Dementus' men chooses for him and, after choosing one of the warboys, Immortan Joe's son paints his mouth silver, grabs 2 spears with something on the tip, and leaps toward Dementus' men. The young man throws himself to the ground and causes an explosion, killing some. With that, the spokesperson says that they have 972 warboys ready to sacrifice themselves for Immortan Joe. After the speech, he and Immortan Joe enter the citadel, and Immortan Joe's warrior sons, Scrotus and his brother Rictus, give the order to attack Dementus. The warboys launch themselves to kill some of them by self-destructing, while others capture some motorcycles. When Furiosa's cart is about to be taken along with her, Dementus steps in to stop it, and as they try to drag the little girl through a tunnel, Dementus pulls her back. He climbs onto his powerful motorcycle and leaves the place. Days later, we see that Dementus and his men are near Gasoline Town and notice a truck from the citadel arriving there. They discover that there is a supply exchange between the town's food, water, for gasoline. At dawn, Dementus' group waits for the truck to leave, and as it moves away from the city, they intercept it. Moments later, Dementus approaches with his ally Octobos and asks him to gather 10 men to become warboys and disguise themselves. Minutes later, Gasoline Town's lookout sees Immortan Joe's truck returning in the distance, apparently being attacked. The town leader is alerted, but upon observing through the telescope, he realizes something is wrong. Seeing that the town leader did not open the gates, Dementus starts attacking his own men on top of the truck and kills them, making the leader believe and order the gates to be opened. The truck enters, but upon stopping, some men from Dementus emerge from beneath the vehicle and then overpower the gate guards, ordering them to open the way for their many companions. The next day, a man from Dementus arrives at the citadel and delivers a message to be given to Immortan Joe, which turns out to be the finger of the Lord of Gasoline Town, showing that the place now belongs to Dementus. Immortan Joe receives the news and agrees to talk with Dementus. There's a twist in the negotiation, and when Immortan Joe sees Furiosa, Dementus says that she is his daughter. After the introductions, Dementus's organic mechanic says that the little girl is unique, a human without disease and pure. This impresses Immortan Joe, making him desirous of her, and he asks if she would like to stay at the citadel, be well taken care of, and when grown up, become one of his wives. The wise man says this would mean a good alliance, but Dementus says that Furiosa is not up for negotiation. Immortan Joe approaches Furiosa and asks if Dementus is really her father, and after a long time without speaking, she says he is not her father and that he had killed her mother. Immortan Joe continues the negotiations, saying he will increase the supply of water and food for them, but he will take the girl and the organic mechanic. Dementus accepts, but before leaving, he takes back the teddy bear given to Furiosa and leaves the citadel. Moments later, the little girl is taken to a large vault where Immortan Joe's wives are kept. Time passes, and Furiosa observes the wives giving birth, noticing how upset Immortan Joe gets when they do not provide the perfection he needs. Reflecting on what her future there will be, Furiosa devises a plan and cuts part of her hair, making a wig and hiding the rest on her head. One night when she is taken to be abused by Rictus, she escapes, leaving him with the wig. The clever Furiosa hides in the darkness while Rictus deceives his brother about what he was doing. A few months pass quickly, and Furiosa has managed to stay alive, disguising herself as a boy, doing dangerous and difficult jobs. And as she did everything she was ordered, bravely and with excellence, she is soon promoted to an operator. Some years pass, and Immortan Joe's men, after gathering powerful parts, begin the project to make the war machine, and among them is Furiosa, who pretends to be mute to avoid speaking and revealing her female voice. Days after starting the construction of the war machine, Furiosa meets the driver who will steer it, known as Jack and famous for racing on the dangerous Fury Road. After months of construction, the great war machine is ready and already in use heads towards Gasoline Town. A group of Dementus's rebel bikers initiates an attack and tries to assault the large vehicle from the air, but the defense manages to destroy their enemies. Below the truck, we see Furiosa and her motorcycle, where she hid to follow the group. When the mechanic descends to fix the defect, he ends up being knocked down and seeing Furiosa there, hands her the part to finish the repairs. The attack continues, coming from all directions, and now some enemies approach to place explosives on the vehicle to destroy it. Fortunately, Furiosa is there and disarms the bomb. She then manages to fix the defect in the primary engine, and Jack keeps accelerating. The enemies continue to attack, take over the support car, and charge at the vehicle. However, a war boy sacrifices himself and destroys the vehicle. Later, when things calm down, Furiosa emerges and adjusts the smoke exhaust, showing Jack that she is a woman. More enemies appear, but Furiosa and Jack work together to defeat them. When more of them appear, flying over the truck and firing their weapons at it, Furiosa climbs to the top of the vehicle and shoots a harpoon, starting to pull the enemy. A dwarf who was inside the truck's cargo emerges, and seeing he was responsible for the chaos, Furiosa orders him to activate the weapon. However, the shots hit him, but the young girl quickly goes to the button and activates the weapon, which is actually blades that cut through anything, and thus the enemy is shredded along with his equipment. After defeating her enemies, Furiosa goes to the truck's cab and points a gun at Jack, asking him to stop and get out. However, he quickly brakes, overpowers the young girl, and throws her out of the vehicle, then leaves. Furiosa looks around and cannot find a solution. Suddenly, Jack returns on foot to where she was, saying that fleeing the Citadel and heading to Gasoline Town is worse, as Dementus cannot properly control the gangs. She points her gun at him, but Jack says he lost his entire team but wants to start over, and she would be a great work partner. He offers to help Furiosa become better than she already is, and that after mastering combat techniques on the road, she will be able to go wherever she wants. Furiosa then agrees to follow Jack and become a Praetorian. Sometime later, we see both of them inside the truck with the new team, and soon they arrive at the third desert fortress, Bullet Farm. While the loading and supply exchange begins, the leader of the place advises Immortan Joe to gather the War Council to talk about Dementus harming Gasoline Town. Jack receives a carbine he requested and returns to the truck. Later on the road, Jack gifts Furiosa the carbine and says their partnership will end in 2 days, so she can leave the Citadel. He says he will help her get supplies and a vehicle for the journey. Hours later, his group arrives to refuel at Gasoline Town, but Dementus approaches the truck and fortunately does not recognize Furiosa, whose face was painted black. The people of Gasoline Town are frantic and want more than they are given. Dementus tells Jack to inform the warlords that he wants a meeting to discuss new terms. Seeing the confusion worsening, Dementus orders Jack to leave without the agreed fuel, and they then turn around to exit through the gate. After arriving in Immortan Joe's presence and reporting what Dementus is proposing, Immortan Joe states their plan, to retaliate harshly against Dementus's deceptions. The next day, Jack and his convoy head to collect weapons at Bullet Farm. On the way, Jack stops the war machine and changes personnel. Seeing that the war boys are not very intelligent, he has them load the support vehicle with motorcycles and supplies, saying that Furiosa will drive it while he takes another boy as his new driver. When they reach Bullet Farm, Jack stops the truck and observes the still machines. No one is seen, only a dog with a human foot in its mouth. Realizing it's a trap, he sounds the alarm, giving Furiosa time to reverse and escape before the gate closes. Some more boys are killed, making Jack alert to kill his enemies. Furiosa returns to help him, shooting through the gate's gap and killing as many as she can. Using the truck, Jack finishes off the enemies, but hears many more approaching. He fires a flare into the air and accelerates the war machine towards Dementus's men. Furiosa enters the large mine and, with her rifle, shoots and hits an enemy, making him miss Jack's vehicle. Jack manages to destroy the cars trying to stop him. Furiosa demonstrates incredible skill with her rifle, nearly hitting Dementus, who shelters behind a tower. However, he uses one of his men to locate the young woman and fires a missile. The explosion causes a collapse where Furiosa was. Angrily, Jack uses the truck to knock down the tower where Dementus is, but he escapes the fall by grabbing onto a grate. Fortunately, the young Furiosa survives the attack, but the war machine gets stuck in a large crane that pulls it towards the abyss. Seeing Jack is in danger, Furiosa quickly approaches on a motorcycle, and when Jack jumps from the vehicle, she throws a hook, saving her friend. They then head for the gate, get into Furiosa's car, and flee, with the young woman saying where they will go next. Meanwhile, Dementus tries to cross the gate with his monster truck and soon succeeds. Upon reaching a large hill, Furiosa's car cannot climb it, so she goes around. Unfortunately, this action is simple for Dementus's truck, and after climbing to cross the hill, he approaches Furiosa's car. Jack shoots with the rifle, killing one of the men, and Furiosa kicks up dust on the desert plain, distancing herself from the enemy. Dementus sees her and continues the pursuit. When he gets close, there is a shootout. Furiosa kills Dementus's last man, but Jack is shot. Furiosa fires at her enemy but injures her arm on the big car's wheel. Dementus then uses his vehicle to ram Furiosa's car, causing it to flip over. Dementus gets out of his car, and soon after, his men arrive. They pull the two injured from the car, and Dementus angrily says he will punish them. He ties Jack to a motorcycle to be dragged while Furiosa, with her injured arm chained, is forced to watch her friend being dragged by the motorcycle and tormented by Dementus's dogs. Hours later, the torture continues, and the dust surrounds them until Dementus orders them to stop. When he goes to finish what he started, he approaches where he left Furiosa but only finds part of her arm. Courageously, the young woman had broken her injured limb to escape death and flee. Sometime later, she loses her motorcycle due to lack of fuel and continues on foot to reach the citadel. From afar, a man on a hill sees her falling into the sand. When Furiosa regains consciousness, she is in a pit with an old woman but is startled by seeing human bodies. She quickly runs out of the pit and realizes she is in the citadel, so she goes to Immortan Joe's sons and claims to be Praetorian Furiosa. She is quickly taken to Immortan Joe, who, along with his council, analyzes the situation upon seeing smoke in the distance, thinking Dementus has destroyed Gasoline Town. His son, Scrotus, wants to confront the mad Dementus, but Furiosa says that's what Dementus wants, for them to leave the citadel unprotected. Immortan Joe says they will make the enemy think they are heading to Gasoline Town. Moments later, Dementus, observing from afar, notices movements away from the citadel and heads to attack it. However, they did not expect Immortan Joe's deception, leading to a war that lasted over 40 days, with many deaths and losses. From the start, Furiosa was recovering, cut all her hair, and built a robotic hand to aid her. One day, she shows courage by requesting a vehicle to join the battle. One of the men says there is only one available, and even though the car is worn out and missing a wheel, she drives it out of the citadel. The battlefield is chaotic and reeks of death. One of the cars is being restored for Scrotus to chase the fleeing Dementus. While the brothers argue about who will pursue the enemy, Furiosa infiltrates and steals the car, quickly driving away. Moments later, the rest of Dementus's group flees, but two are killed. Seeing enemies approaching, Dementus orders them to split up. However, Furiosa finds the correct path of Dementus's vehicle and continues to pursue her enemy. It doesn't take long for her to catch up and surprise them. She knocks down the two support motorcycles but soon realizes it was just one of the men driving them. Furiosa forces the man to drive straight into a desert hole, swallowing him in the sand. She observes the other motorcyclist from the top of a dune, but he is ambushed and killed by other bikers, and through her rifle, she sees it's not Dementus. She quickly follows the last one left, the real enemy, who heads into a sandstorm. Thinking he is safe, Dementus stops to wait out the storm in the night under an improvised tent, but upon waking, he finds his water canteen cut and his motorcycle without a tire. He hears something and, turning, sees his nightmare atop the dune. When he tries to shoot, he finds his gun empty. He wonders why the mysterious figure didn't kill him overnight, but it says nothing and leaves. Dementus follows into the dense dust cloud but soon finds himself chased by a car. He tries to pursue the car but realizes he can't escape, so he kneels and surrenders. Furiosa gets out of the car and approaches him, revealing herself as the one he had caused so much pain. Dementus grabs a knife from Furiosa's leg, but it's bladeless, and he is then knocked out. A voice narrates that their fates were entirely different from expected, where she didn't kill him but took him to the citadel. At the top where the trees flourished, she planted the seed her mother had given her before dying and used Dementus's body as nutrients for the plant's growth, slowly killing him, thus avenging her mother's death.